Testing. Hello. Thank you for that, and thank you for thinking of inviting me tonight, and also for hearing more about Xanadu. What do you think of Xanadu so far? What I'm going to do is just click it 10 times and then start talking, and it'll probably line up nicely. So I'll start off with our mission. So our mission is to build quantum computers that are useful and available to people everywhere. Next month will be our 8th year, and so we'll be going into our 9th year. So we've been around a little while now, but feels like it was only yesterday. We've got nearly 200, that should be 200 plus people now. And most of them are based in our headquarters in downtown Toronto. And we have a US entity, and we also have people throughout the rest of the world. But I think 95% are actually based here in Toronto. Actually, it's just a block away too. We have 2 full floors where we're building these quantum computers. And the other pretty cool thing, at least from a Canadian point of view, we've raised $275 million USD. I think 250 million of that is from venture capital from around the world, also including investors from Canada. And then we also have about $55 million Canadian from the Canadian government as well. So this is just a history of the timeline of our funding. This is kind of reminiscent of deep tech. You need a lot of money. We'll be raising again at the end of this year. We need a lot more money as well. With something like quantum computing, it's going to take a lot of money, and it's something that in principle is going to change our world. And we're really proudly doing this in Canada. One of the reasons why I wanted to show this slide is that it is possible to get a lot of money from Canadian VCs. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rounds of funding, including the government funding at the end. The first 2 was led by OMERS Ventures, so the pension fund here in Ontario. After them came Bessemer, which is one of our good supporters and investors. They're based in the Valley. And then we also had Georgian. They're one of the big investors, one of the biggest here in Canada that are based in Toronto as well. So we're always proudly Canadian. I'm originally from Australia, now Canadian citizen the last few years. And I think over 53% or so of people at Xanadu are actually from overseas as well. So we're really trying to build something quite amazing here in Canada and in Toronto specifically. So I'd just like to, that was a bit about Xanadu. Now I'd like to spend just a few minutes of the rest of the talk talking about some things or take-homes that we've learned. Again, it's from our perspective at Xanadu, so we're quite unusual. I would describe us as a deep tech endeavor. It's very hard what we're doing. It's going to take a long time. But these are some of the things from our point of view. So the first thing is it's hard to raise money, and it takes time. That's kind of obvious, I guess, right? But after you go at it for years and years, it doesn't feel so obvious after a while, because you just kind of feel like giving up, and it's like, yeah, I know it's hard, but you just got to keep going. For instance, in the one that was led by Bessemer in our round of funding, that was a $100 million round. That actually, we got them to lead the round. So once you say you're going to raise $100 million, you want to get a lead investor. They put in probably most of the money, or at the very least, they do the term sheet, which has all the details of how much they're going to price the round and so forth. But once you get someone that says they're going to lead the rounds and put the money in first and write the terms, it's much easier to fill out the round. So Bessemer actually came in only after we went through, I think, 143 people, and then we finally got Bessemer for the lead of the round. So it may look easy and may look, oh, now they've raised nearly $300 million, but it was 143 people. Now, some of them are just directly no's. A lot of them you have to follow up 3 or 4 times. And then still many more are actually 3 or 4 conversations. So it's not like 143 events. It's multiplied by 5 or something like that. So it takes a lot of time and effort. And they don't care about you as much as you care about yourself, obviously. And so you got to follow up repeatedly as well. So that's a point I'd like to make, that we're raising again probably a couple of $100 million at the end of this year. I don't know if we can get there. I think we'll get some. whether we'll get all that amount, I'm not sure. But to give you another idea, in preparation for this round, which will start in October and November, I've been traveling since early last year, so for the last year and a half, every couple of months or every month to places like Abu Dhabi we talked about. They have a lot of investment funds, Southeast Asia, Australia, and also the pension funds, talking to them here because we need, we're a different type of company, so we need patient capital and people that can write large checks as well. So anyways, that's an obvious point, but just want to let you know that someone like Xanadu, who may look like it comes easy, that's far from the truth as well. And I'm sure we'll go through the same pain again in the next couple of months as well. The second one, this is interesting. What we're trying to do is build a quantum computer that can scale up. So quantum computers already exist now, but they need to be, something like, I would say, 2 or 3 times the size of this auditorium, and you'll have small server racks that are quantum computers, and so we call it a quantum data center. We're actually working at the atomic level, and we're trying to manipulate things and process information and build a computer out of this. It doesn't get any harder than that. It's harder than probably anything that's been done historically in humanity. Having said that, we're also leveraging things that have been done previously as well, like computers and digital computing. It'd be very hard to build this without foundries, without the telecommunication industry. But having said that, building on top of that, it's very difficult. So having said that, still the most difficult part is the people management side of things. So that's something to keep in mind. I remind people all the time at Xanadu, and if anyone asks, what's the most difficult thing? Technology is very hard. That is second. Raising money is hard, but that's kind of like a just don't give up and you'll solve it. With humans, we all have our own personality. We have 200 people now, so when you've got the first 10 or 20, there's a certain complexity, but you multiply that by 10, and then if we ever get to 1,000 or 2,000, it just gets harder and harder. Because we're all different, we all have different expectations, and there's that old saying that we all walk around with our own rule book in our head of how we are supposed to act and how we think other people should act, and that it's not the same rule book for everyone. So that's really challenging. I think awareness of that and not be fooled by that, even if you're doing something hard, is the first step, and then after that, you kind of build your own culture and hire the right leaders and things of that nature and reiterate the culture over and over and over every single hour, all the time. And that's how you may get ahead of the difficulties managing people. Again, it's not a statement on people being bad or anything like that. It's just the interaction side of things is challenging as well. And so far we've managed to stay on top of that, but it's something that we keep in mind as well, scaling up beyond that if we're lucky enough to do that. And the third thing I've noticed is that no one cares as much as you. So one of the things that I do, most of my time now is actually spent replying, following up on emails, I would say, like honestly, and Slack and stuff like that. No one cares as much as you, whether it's investors, customers, or anyone, honestly anyone. So I write an email and then I cut and paste that email and put in my calendar. I store all my to-do tasks for the day in the calendar. And then when I wake up in the morning, I have to see my calendar because I got meetings. And then above it, I see it's in Gmail, Google Calendar. And then I just see all the things I have to do. And there's usually a ton of emails there from the week before. Always follow up 7 days later. And just don't let go. I have a limit to 4 times, so that's a month, and then I'll stop following up. But that comes back to this idea here. No one cares as much as you do. If you're a founder or working at a startup, there's probably a lot of founders here and people that are trying to get things started. No one cares about you. I don't even care about you. But that's something to keep in mind because it's you hear about it's very lonely and all that sort of stuff. It is. Your investors. It's great if you can get them and they invest. They don't care as much about you. Your family doesn't. So that's something that's really tough. But again, all of these things you may not internalize, but at least you know that they exist. And then you come back each day, each year, and then think, yeah, I see that being true. And knowing that other people go through that as well, I think can alleviate some of the pain which is associated with this building a company. It sounds kind of, let me see, yeah, all three kind of sound quite negative. They're just reality. They're not positive or negative. You'll run into these things. So being aware of them is very key. But again, I wouldn't rather be doing anything else. I'd rather, you got, as an entrepreneur, you kind of got your destiny or fate in your own hands. And that's a cool thing. I think waking up each day with a purpose and something you want to do and you love to do, even if it fails, Xanadu could still fail. I mean, each year goes on, reduces the probability, but it's still fairly high that we may not make it. I think we do. I think we'll do something great for Canada. But again, it's just, maybe break your life up into time chunks. So right now is a time chunk, say an hour or something. Like, what else would I be rather doing right now? And ask yourself each hour that you go by, and then most of the time, if you're doing something you love, you can get through the hard times by slicing it up into finite amounts of time. And you think, well, I'd rather be doing this. It's tough, but anything else probably sucks as much as what this does anyway. So anyways, I'll leave it there and happy to answer any questions if you have any.
So they give me the mic, so I'm going to jump before I let anyone else ask a question. All three of those need persistence. Have you always been tenacious? And if not, or how do you build your skill being tenacious to keep on going?
Yeah, persistence is implied in all those things. You're right. I don't know if it's a learned quality or it's inbuilt, but I remember since I was young being very persistent. And I think the idea, which I still believe, I'm not very good at many things, I think. Like, the people that I hire, they're much better than me, which should be the case for any leader, I think. But I just feel like, where can I compete? Where's my uniqueness? Well, I can probably hold on, longer than anyone else. Like belief in myself and persistence. Like they're kind of things I think that you don't have to be intelligent. You don't have to, work hard is another thing as well. It's just put in the time, put in the hours. So we should always find ways where we're unique and we can compete. And yeah, persistence, I think that's one of my attributes.
Cool. Thanks. Questions?
So my question is, I'm comparing you to D-Wave, the Vancouver-based quantum computing company.
I've never heard of them.
Okay. So the question is, why don't you go after public equity and you're still going after private equity?
So you mean like go public?
Yes.
That's easy. Have you seen D-Wave's price? Next question. Actually, it's just not the best strategy for deep tech. In all seriousness, D-Wave and a few others have gone public, and it was through SPACs, which are kind of dubious, but a good financial instrument if that's the only choice you have. And a lot of them start off by definition at $10 for SPACs. And I haven't looked at D-Wave for a while, but a lot of them are around $1 now. So that's the big reason.
Not necessarily through a SPAC, maybe through another strategy.
Well, the SPAC actually is ideal, even though it's probably not the best. It's ideal for deep tech, like a quantum computing, where you don't really have a product yet, or at least the end product, and you don't have much revenue. And they're ideal for that, the SPACs. Now, if you try to do it any other way, they're going to want things like revenue and all the usual metrics, and it's very hard to get banks and customers interested in buying shares of Xanadu or someone else. So in terms of other funding, though, we do go after government contracts. So we work with the US government, say DARPA and funds like that, and also the Canadian equivalents as well. But anyway, that's our thinking on the public markets. Are you looking to invest $200 million?
I think he's in a banker looking for a client.
I just wanted to point out, you said those three thoughts are both negative and positive at the same time, so they really are in a quantum state.
Exactly, in a superposition for sure. I just hope it collapses one way than the other.
Hi, I really appreciate you sharing about the loneliness of being a founder. I think my question has more to do with when you're a founder and you don't know what it's going to look like at the end. You kind of just have to go in the direction that feels right. And as you said, nobody really cares about you and your vision as much as you do. So having built this company and continuing to build it, how do you find your inner compass?
Well, I'm not sure. Like, going back to your first point, my mom came to visit me last week, and she says, "Who the hell are you?" Like, she's even forgotten about me. So, But I think one of the key things is, so you got to find your anchor or your ability to stay centered. That's key. So for me, it would be meditation. I've been doing that for many years. When I wake up, I do an hour every day, nearly without fail. So you need that kind of anchor point. Some people go to the gym, and that's their kind of anchor where it kind of resets them. So you need something like that. In terms of staying motivated on the end vision, even if it may fail, I love reading since I was a teenager, and I read to this day. In fact, this afternoon, just books, so biographies, and biographies are the main one, autobiographies as well. And so you see other people that have gone through things, and you're like, well, they got through it. They're going through this struggle. So even though you may be alone from a human point of view, you're not alone when it comes to books and other people's past history and struggles as well. So I tap into things like that.
Yeah, hi. So this endeavor is pretty difficult. It's deep tech. I was wondering, what's been your experience in finding the right people and the talent in the industry to help you build this? So what's been your experience like?
Hasn't been too bad. It takes a lot of time, but I think it helped a lot because I came from academia. So I was a PhD and then postdoc at U of T. So I could kind of know which people to hire in the field that I was in. So the first 50 or 60, 70 people were mostly PhDs. And then I hire a few, then they'll hire, recommend other people. So the first 100 people weren't too bad at all. And that's because of previous experience being in that community. It was also, we started in 2016, so it would be harder to start now because there's so many quantum companies out there. So all the talent's getting gobbled up. Even like some companies are going to people when they first started their PhD and say, hey, when you finish, you should come to us. So companies are doing that. More recently, though, I think one of the biggest challenges is we don't need PhDs or we need more people from industry, which is really a good sign. That means it's coming out of the lab, so to speak. What happens there, though, is that more and more people, say chip designers, we need people to design our integrated photonic chips. They may work at Intel or NVIDIA, so they exist, but now they're harder to get because of the monetary point of view. But it's not impossible, so we just take our time. I think the other thing, too, is money's only one thing, so we can offer people hope and promise of a fantastical new technology and people that want to be on the cutting edge, so we have that going for us as well. And the other thing, too, is we always think, how do we get a whole country behind us? How do we get people from outside that are Canadian have left and bring them back? That's one other thing that it's always, even in my personal life, how do you compete in ways that other people aren't competing? How do you stay away from the pack? And it still resonates even with quantum computing as well. You try to find those ways to be unique.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris.
Great. Thank you, everyone.